All right, I'm Chris Avina with American Outdoor News, and today we're here with Michael Jensen of GPO Optics. Mike, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome for having me. It's always fun to talk outdoors and optics and hunting and all those other kind of fun topics.
Well, to start out, I have a pretty specific question.
Sure.
What separates German optics from U.S. optics? And what makes them better if they are better?
Yeah, I think what it really boils down to, the optics technology globally is getting very, very close. They know what they know here, what they know in Germany, what they know in Asia. 20 years ago, you bought something out of Germany versus Asia versus the United States, and the quality gaps were tremendous between them.
Yep.
Modern day technology with global information sharing and better factories coming online, better technology, that gap has got very, very close. So to kind of answer your question, the real separation between a German-based product line and an other country-based product line is the attention to detail, is the quality control processes that are put into it.
Mm-hmm.
You can have stuff made in other places, and you can have the variation within the exact same model be quite different. Some are not quite so good, and some are beyond fantastic. And what the German technology does, what the German attention to detail mindset does, is keep those variations and those tolerances very, very tight on anything they push to their QC. So what's good, what meets that specification. You don't have something come in that has any debris in it, or the resolution or the brightness is any different. It's consistently good all the time.
Well, yeah, I know there's a lot of companies out there that will cut corners to increase their profit margin. It don't appear that GPO or Zeiss or Swarovski, when you get to that level, you're getting what you pay for.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Our advantage versus those other European companies is, we're a fairly new company, right? We've been around 6 years now. And, some of these other companies that have been around, Zeiss, for example, has been around 165 years or something like that.
Yep.
The infrastructure we built this company on a very lean, efficient, modern infrastructure. And those other companies, they carry decades and decades, even centuries of infrastructure, pensions they have to fund, factories they have to fund, tax structures that they've fallen into. Mm-hmm. And as a new startup company, having all the technology to do what we do without those giant infrastructure costs, we can build product at that premium European level at a far better pricing structure for the end consumer. They can get a lot more bang for their buck now.
Well, your line has really increased dramatically in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the what?
Your line, you're covering scopes, rangefinders, binos, spotting scopes. You have a pretty broad product line.
We have a pretty broad product line. You are right. We started with just some binoculars and some rifle scopes a few years ago. Expanded on those to kind of fit the, in business, what we call the 20-80 rule. 20% of your SKUs in any company is going to be 80% of your revenue.
Yeah.
So 20% of the optics SKUs out there are the lion's share of what customers are looking for, the features they want. You're not filling niches within a product line, I should say. We've really been focusing on, let's fill that 20-80 rule in the optics market, give as many people exactly what they're looking for as absolutely possible. Yes, we started with some rifle scopes and binoculars. We've expanded the binoculars. We've expanded the rifle scopes. We've jumped much further into the range-finding business. We have handheld rangefinders, range-finding binoculars, which really showcases our engineering capabilities. There's a lot of companies out there, not only can they not even get it to market yet, a range-finding binocular, but there's a lot of ones out there that are really not very good. And so this is showcasing the technology we're capable of. You'll see spotting scopes in the very near future from us. We're expanding into red dot sights, tactical scopes now, thermal in the future. So the line's growing very, very fast. But again, our objective is let's pass along great pricing structure to the end consumer, produce 80% of the SKUs that are, 20% of the SKUs that are 80% of the market, and keep this company lean and make it effective for people, cost effective for people to buy GPO products.
Now, do you personally test all the products when you're out in the field?
We've got about 60 SKUs in the line now, so I mean it's gotten quite big. I've had my hands on every single one of them. I've probably had half the rifle scopes on guns. I've played with all the binoculars and the rangefinders in depth, carry them around my neck. But with that many SKUs, you end up zeroing in on your favorite items in the product line, and that's what I pretty much have stuck on all my stuff now.
Well, you're a consummate outdoorsman. You're a long-range shooter. You're a do-it-yourself hunter. What piece of GPO equipment do you find that you can't do without when you're out there?
There's a couple of things. Range finding binoculars is certainly the shift in the marketplace. There's no doubt.
Yep.
And for 90% of the people, they want a binocular, they want a rangefinder, and it fits all of their needs. I'm a West Coast, Rocky Mountain, Southwest kind of hunter myself. So I have larger binoculars. I'm using our 12.5 by 50s on a tripod out west. And it doesn't make sense to use a range-finding binocular for long-range glassing. And I've always carried a small hip rangefinder for ranging distances that I need. These super compact 832s and 1032 range-finding binoculars that have come out now are, I think it's changing the equipment guys are carrying, because I've now replaced my handheld hip, rangefinder with a small pair of range-finding binoculars. Gives me another tool in the field. Rifle scopes, generally the higher magnification scopes for Western hunting is what I've shifted to. Things with turrets you can dial in, ballistic reticles that'll help you quickly pick up a shot acquisition at a further distance. So higher power scopes, higher power binoculars, and range-finding bino. 3 optics. I've got weight I'm carrying up those mountains every single day.
You got to be in good shape to get up and down those mountains.
Yeah, I'm not getting any younger, and I think the mountains are getting a lot bigger, so I can't figure out what's happening here.
I can relate. Now, I know everyone wants to know about, what was your most gratifying hunt and things of that nature. What I want to know is, what was your biggest hunting blooper?
Biggest hunting blooper.
I got a lot of them.
My best one, probably when I was a kid, I was archery hunting in Arizona with my brother, and we're archery javelina hunting, and we're sitting at the bottom of a canyon, and we find a group of javelina up on a ridge line. And he says, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go left, you go right. We'll kind of come in on one uphill, downhill, zero in on these pigs, and maybe one of us can kill a pig today. So I take off up the bottom of this canyon. In the bottom of this big canyon, these big round boulders stacked next to each other. And you to get up the canyon, I kind of had to hop from one to the next to the next. Well, I slipped, crashed hard, fell head first in between 3 rocks with my arms stuck wedged to my sides, and I'm stuck upside down between these 3 rocks in the bottom of this giant canyon. And I mean, I was stuck. I was really, really stuck. And if I was by myself, I'd have really been in trouble. But, the more I wiggled and tried to get out, the deeper it pushed me in between those rocks. And I had my head kind of pinned to the side on the ground, and I wasn't hurt, but I was really stuck upside down, shoved in between these rocks. And I was there for an hour and a half.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, my brother shows up and he came looking for me because I never met up with him up the canyon. And he didn't know where I went. I was gone. So he said, well, he's going to backtrack the direction I came and see if he can find me. So he's coming down the bottom of the canyon. He can see my feet sticking up on these rocks. And he ends up coming and pulling me out backwards. But yeah, that was a blooper. Getting stuck upside down in rocks on an archery hunt was one.
I've taken a couple of those falls myself.
Yeah, you hunt enough, you're going to fall. You have a chance to get hurt. And I spend, my passion now are these, 5-7 day backpack, do it yourself, freeze dried food, filtration water kind of hunts. But yeah, sooner or later, you hunt enough, you're going to fall down some.
Yeah, those do it yourself hunts can be interesting, exciting, and you don't know what the hell's going to come your way.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I don't know. Just being that far away from everybody, kind of living out of your backpack for so many days is. My wife calls me absolutely crazy, but it's just one of these things you like to do.
It's what we need to do to get away.
You bet it is.
So we're going to take a quick break to acknowledge some of our sponsors. Underwood Ammo, of course, always a standard of excellence. Phone Scope and Pyro Putty. They are, always innovative with products. And of course, Hunt of a Lifetime. We're going to hear from them in a second, and we'll be right back.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do, from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstance, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the hardest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a nonprofit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference.
Okay, and we are back with Mike Jensen from GPO Optics. Mike, what I want to know is what makes an optic, a rifle scope, what makes it harness in all that light when you get to first light, last light, when you need it the most?
Yeah, there's a couple of tricky equations here. One of the biggest fallacies out there, and people use it all the time, I've used it forever, is that great optics are actually gathering light. Technically, optics don't gather light. Optics transmit the available light. The catch is the best glass and the best coatings you can put on a lot of different lenses to make an optic, to make them push through, or I should say allow through the most light possible, gives you the brightest binocular. So lower quality binoculars have lower quality glass, have lower quality custom coatings on them, and they end up blocking 10 to 20% more of the available light than you should be able to get through those lenses. So that's the first thing. Binoculars and rifle scopes are transmitting light, and the better quality glass and the better quality coatings transmit more of it. The other big piece to the equation is, when it gets dark and your pupil starts to dilate and open up, your pupil's basically saying, feed me more light, right? And your pupil, when it's bright outside, is maybe a little 2 millimeter dot, and when it's dark, it'll open up to 5 or 6 millimeters. Little kids' eyes will open up to 7 or 8 millimeters. But there's an interesting combination between the size of your pupil at that point in time and the size of the diameter of the beam of light coming out of the optic at that particular time. So the size of the beam of light coming out of a binocular is generally a mathematical equation. It is the magnification divided into the size of the objective lens size. So a 10 power binocular that's got a 50 millimeter objective on the front, divide that and you get a 5 millimeter beam of light coming out of the back. Well, the higher magnification you go, the smaller that beam of light is.
Yeah.
Or conversely, the bigger the objective lens is on the front of it, the larger the beam of light is. So on a rifle scope, when you have a lot of variation in magnification, you're actually varying the size of that beam of light. And if it's getting dark and you want, you want to be able to see through your optic perfectly, and your pupil's at 4 millimeters, then if you have a beam of light coming out of the rifle scope smaller than 4 millimeters,
Yeah.
then basically it's going to just automatically look dimmer, right? Because your eye's saying, feed me more light, but the beam of light's smaller than the diameter of your pupil. So it's a combination of that. So in low light conditions, things look a little darker because your pupil's opening up saying, feed me more light, and the beam of light's generally fixed. A 10 by 42 binocular is giving you a 4.2 millimeter beam of light. If you want to carry a little compact pair of binoculars, like a 10 by 25, that's only a 2.5 millimeter beam of light. So obviously when nighttime comes and your pupils start opening up, they look pretty dim. Well, that's mathematics. You can have a 10 by 25, a little binocular, transmit the exact amount of light a 10 by 50 will transmit. The brightness of that beam is exactly the same. The difference is the diameter of the beam of light coming out of the back. That's the trick.
Never knew that. I just always went with the best optic I could find. Or
Yeah, I mean, that always helps. Even on the smaller compact ones, that always help. You get some binoculars out there that are transmitting 70 or 80% of the available light through them.
Yeah.
GPO's up in that premium category with the Swarovski Zeisses and Leicas. We're at 92, 93% of the available light. That's about as good as you can get, as any of us can get. So yeah, obviously a 10 by 42 that's pushing through 93% light, or a 10 by 42 that's pushing through 80% of the light, that's a big difference.
It's huge. Now, you've been around the industry a long time, and you've worked with some of the best companies out there.
I have. I mean, I've had a very lucky, I always say I'd rather be lucky than good. I've had a very lucky path through the industry. Started in a family business running a retail, wholesale, law enforcement distribution company. Then I went to go work for Swarovski. I was sales manager at Swarovski for 8 years.
Wow.
Wanted to get back on the gun side of the business really hard, so I took a job with Remington. I ended up as vice president of sales there at Remington and all of the brands underneath the Remington brand. Back in the big Remington days, those days are gone now. But I was there for 6 years, and then I was the CEO at Zeiss for 5 years. And then you think, well, I know enough about optics in the industry and the customers. I think we can do this ourselves.
So you didn't start GPO. You are on the U.S. side of it.
On the U.S. side of it, I started it from scratch, 100%. My partner in Germany was the CEO of the Zeiss Global brand. He originally hired me to go work for Zeiss. He broke away at about the same time I broke away, and he says, Mike, I've got this crazy idea. I've got access to all of their components and supply chains and manufacturing subcomponent companies, as well as some of the best engineers in the world. You've got access to the largest market in the world. You know the optics business and all the customer base. So why don't we start a partnership here? I'll do the production, design, and engineering from our side. You do the sales, marketing, and distribution from your side. So yeah, technically I was a big piece in getting it off the ground.
That's a huge undertaking.
A lot of hours on the front side before you kind of even turn the light switch on. Yes.
Yeah. Just the technology alone. How long did it take you to develop your first product?
It was probably 2 years before we shipped our first unit. You know, from the time he put the engineers on board, he had access to the component supply chain, you know, for sure.
Sure.
But then they sit down and they say, okay, here's the rifle scope line we want to get started. I think we started with 10 or 12 SKUs, and here's the binocular line we want. And we started with about 8 SKUs and 2 different price points. Yeah, then they got started. So when we came to market, it was about 20 units, 15 to 20 different SKUs when we started.
Uh-huh.
I think we're over 80 now. So it's moving right along.
That's a tremendous amount of growth in a short period of time.
It is. And I think what's causing the growth, obviously people like buying great stuff. There's no doubt. Obviously the German engineering and the German capabilities add a little bit of nostalgia to it. That helps a little bit.
Yeah.
But from the American side, the price value or the price performance ratio of what we're bringing to market is what's causing all the stir out there. They're saying, wait a minute, I can buy a premium European optic now at, in many cases, virtually half the price of some of these other big brands out there, and there's no visual difference between the two. Customers like that. And, inflation's not helping anybody right now. Your dollar simply doesn't go as far right now. Quite honestly, it puts GPO in a pretty significant catbird seat on competing with those other European brands because our price performance ratio is so far ahead of them.
Yeah. Now, do you have any supply chain issues?
Yeah, we have had some supply chain issues. I think like anybody down to the tennis shoe business to the people trying to put lettuce on the grocery store shelves have had some supply chain issues. We've missed fairly strongly on a couple of SKUs that were important to us this year. We've delivered some, but not at the rate we wanted to. The advantage I have here is the Germany side of it. They handle sales and distribution through the rest of the world, and I'm taking care of the North American market. For what I'm doing here for sales, service, and distribution, I've got my warehouse loaded with product. We're inventorying a ton of product here as well. But if I run low, I'm not in a one-step distribution channel where I've got to make sure I'm scheduling out of production correctly, because Germany has a giant inventory as well for the rest of the global market. So as I'm running a little low on certain items, I can extract out of Germany's inventory, and that's dramatically helped our business here. So yeah, we've had some supply chain issues. Right now, I think we're shipping at 95% right now. So I mean, we're full right now coming into season, which is fortunate. But it's just part of running a business. There's always a new challenge that's dropped on your desk every morning.
You got a lot of flexibility having a global market.
Yeah, the global market is giant. I mean, that helps us more than you can imagine, because if we were just running production and sales and you've got a supply chain, guess what? You're selling zero. I had no zero SKUs this year. There were some months where I was out of some important SKUs, but we've had no SKUs with 0 units out the door this year. Due to supply chain issues. Even when supply chain was giving production problems, they had inventory. So I had an advantage versus the rest of the global market.
Sure. So if I'm in the market for optics, why am I buying GPO?
You're getting one of the best optical products ever produced. You're getting something with the best technology in the world, especially our electronics or optoelectronic category, some of the best made out there. And you're getting it at, substantial savings. Our premium binoculars are more than $1,000 less than some of the European premium stuff. So you can get a premium European optic at dramatically better prices, and you can convert that money into gasoline.
That's a big number.
You got to use it somewhere, right? So better to keep it in your pocket and use it for gas and pay an extra 15% for the steaks for the barbecue.
We're only $2 a gallon more than we were a couple of years ago.
Oh, they posted some post the other day that I about jumped out of my chair. It said when gas prices had come down like 50 cents or $1 a gallon, they were promoting, I'm not going to say what network, but one of the networks was promoting America just got a pay raise.
Yep.
It's still $2 more than it was a few years ago, but now that we're saving $1 a gallon, we just got a pay raise. How can you do that? That's like looking at somebody and saying, the price of this item's $1 and I'm going to charge you $2 for it. Oh, but wait, I'm going to charge you $1.90 and I just made you 10 cents. It's crazy, crazy.
They think the American public is stupid.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
There's a lot of that going on out there. You are correct.
Well, what do you have in store for us this year? Anything new coming out, or anything you're going to be debuting at SHOT Show?
Yeah, we're going to debut. We're not going to be expanding our range-finding binocular category anymore because we just introduced those 32s this year, and those 50 millimeter and 32 millimeter range-finding binos kind of dramatically fills that 20/80 rule. But we will have some new handheld rangefinders next year. We will have new binocular category next year. We're going to have new tactical rifle scopes next year, new long-range hunting rifle scopes next year. So we're expanding. We're continuing to fill some of these high-volume gaps that aren't in the portfolio. So I think we've got 8 or 10 new SKUs, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, maybe a dozen new SKUs next year.
Wow, in this economy, that's a big number too.
Yeah. Yeah, and 12 more SKUs is 12 more SKUs of inventory. You've got to plan, stock, fill, market, all of the above. So it's the American market is so gigantic, and it takes a lot of time and effort to get the word out on these are new SKUs or these are new items or what we have and what we don't have. So even, interviews like this today are a huge help, for a, growing company like GPO. A lot of the industry is saying, it's going to be soft or flat or down a little bit next year, but we're still so new and the market's so big. We're just taking market share. So we got a lot of growth, a lot of years of growth for us in front of us before we consider we're saturated, and we've got to follow those economic trends. We're just going to grow.
Well, you're around the industry long enough. It's always good to see a new emerging company and grow, expand, and be successful. Yeah,
it's a lot of work, but it's very, very satisfying. I got to say, being in the industry, I love this industry. I love every brand in this industry. I don't care whose it is, because it all contributes to our lifestyle, our way of life, and what we love to do. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I just couldn't imagine.
Couldn't agree with you more. Well, I definitely appreciate your time. We're running out of time here. Where can we find your products?
You can go to any of your local retail store. We're adding retailers as fast as we can get to them. If they don't carry it, they can certainly order it from us and bring it into their store. Any of your listeners who have a local store that isn't stocking GPO, go in and ask them, say, hey, you need to put the GPO line on your shelf. It's a real value to us customers. You can also get our product online on our website at gpo-usa.com. It's also available there. But our focus and our support, my focus and support is I want to watch the retail base grow, because those retailers nationwide are the ones who support our way of life. And that's what I want this brand to do.
Well, anything we can do to help you along, always feel free to ask. And I definitely appreciate your time, and what you've done in the industry is tremendous. And I admire that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a lot of work every day, but you wake up with a smile every day. Can't complain.
Yes, we do. All right. Well, thanks again. And
thank you.
See you on our next episode.
You bet. Thanks for your time.